Everyone has been penciling in an Ohio State victory over Indiana so much, it might as well be ink. Can the Hoosiers go into the horseshoe on Saturday and prove everybody wrong?
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
I am so sick and tired of hearing about strength of schedule and Indiana right now. This is a 10-0 Big Ten football team. Their margin of victory is, well, let's just say very high, and they have earned this spot to be number 5 in the country. They have earned this opportunity, certainly, to be in the college football playoff. I think the reason why everybody is attacking Indiana and not attacking other resumes out there like Texas's resume, maybe even Penn State's resume as well. The reason that they're attacking Curt Cignetti's squad is because they are the anti-establishment. They are the rebel force right now within the college football playoff. And I might think that there are some people out there that say, they might not admit it publicly, but they think, yeah, if Indiana gets into the playoff, this is an explosive football team that could do some damage once they get there. They're going to have an opportunity to prove they belong when they face off against a true national championship contender like the Ohio State Buckeyes. So certainly motivation. Curt Cignetti saying to his squad, nobody believes in you. Nobody thinks that you belong in the college football playoff. Let's go out there and let's prove them wrong. Let's break down this matchup, why don't we? The big thing that really sticks out to me is the news that we heard earlier in the week when Seth McLaughlin was injured. It was announced that he was not going to be able to return for the rest of the season, an Achilles injury in practice to the center, one of the best centers in college football up front there for the Ohio State Buckeyes. It is the second season-ending injury on the offensive line. Of course, they had left tackle. Josh Simmons was injured, and we know what happened in that Nebraska game, but Ohio State was able to respond in that Penn State game when they moved Donovan Jackson out to left tackle, and they were able to gel. Now the question is, what is Ohio State's offensive line going to look like in the interior doing this patchwork job once again in the musical chairs, moving around? I think that you're going to see Carson Hinsman playing at center. Hinsman played at center before. He has experience in that spot. And once we've seen Carson come in this season, Hinsman has actually played pretty well. This is a challenge for Ohio State. Whether Seth McLaughlin was in there or whether he wasn't, no matter what combination you had on the offensive line, Indiana's defensive line wreaks more havoc than anybody in the Big Ten Conference right now. They lead the Big Ten in sacks with 31 this year. Ohio State, fun fact, right behind them over there with 30 sacks. And Indiana leads the Big Ten in tackles for loss with 73. Like, that's the big thing I have focused right now. Can Ohio State keep the havoc at bay? Can they contain things up front in the line of scrimmage where they can run their offense, where they can run the ball when they want to, when they can throw the football, certainly when they want to? Because if Indiana is wreaking havoc and they're getting on the other side of the line of scrimmage and they're getting this Ohio State offense off of their game and out of rhythm a little bit, that's where Indiana can have a plus advantage on that side of the football. Because having a great performance on defense for Indiana is only, of course, going to help them out with their best unit, that being their offense. And that's where I really want to transition to for Ohio State and their game plan. I think Ohio State has some advantages out on the perimeter against these Indiana defensive backs. Indiana is much better defensively in the front seven than they are on the back end. I think Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Mecca Buka, I think that they can hit some big plays, certainly during this game. But if I'm Chip Kelly, if I'm Ohio State, I want to be able to run the football. I want my offensive line to be able to be good enough to run downhill on Indiana, because if we go up and down the field, we get in a track meet with Indiana, Indiana can play that game. There's some school of thought that say Indiana can maybe play that game better than Ohio State can play that game. Ohio State needs to be balanced on the offensive side of the ball. I think that they need to have success running the football, keeping that Hoosier offense on the sidelines, and getting touchdowns and finishing drives with touchdowns. You kick field goals against IU, that's not necessarily a recipe for success. So it all comes back to this offensive line gelling together. How do I think that this will all shake out with the Buckeyes up front? Look, Carson Hinsman has played better, and he has that experience at the center spot. I think Ohio State is prepared for the changes. I think that they are ready. I don't think that there's going to be a gigantic drop-off. I don't think that this is going to be a game like it was against the Nebraska Cornhuskers where all of a sudden they attack the weakness and they attack and they attack and they're playing on the other side of the line of scrimmage that significantly. Now, that being said, like I said before, Indiana is still a significant challenge up front, but I think the Buckeyes are going to be ready to go. I think that they're going to be able to execute, but I also think that Indiana is going to have a good chance to wreak some havoc in this game. That's the big talking point for the Ohio State offense. What about the big talking point for the Indiana offense? They are coming off of their most subpar performance of the season, putting up only 20 points against the Michigan Wolverines. Now, they've had a bye to think about it leading up against this Ohio State defense. What does Ohio State and Michigan have in common? They both have really good defensive fronts. They both have really good defensive lines. Like, you look at Indiana in that game against Michigan, 28 carries, 40 yards on the ground. That's just 1.4 yards per carry. Now, I do want to say Justice Ellison was a little bit banged up in this game. They went to the throw game a little bit as this game certainly progressed. So that certainly has a new effect. And Justice Ellison is going to be fully healthy. Curt Cignetti says Indiana is full strength coming into this game. So I think how this Indiana offense bounces back in the run game is going to tell us a lot about the Hoosiers to see if they can get back to those high-flying Hoosiers that we saw all those big margins of victory and explosive plays certainly throughout the season. So there's a couple of school of thoughts when you talk about the run game with the Indiana Hoosiers. Say, okay, well, they got stifled by a good Michigan defensive front, and they're facing a great Ohio State defensive front. Maybe we could see a similar result, and Indiana could struggle running the football. Could that happen? Absolutely, it could happen. I think I favor Ohio State's defensive front right now over Indiana's offensive front. But also maybe Indiana's looking at this thing, feeling a little bit more healthy right now. And hey, we saw what we saw against Michigan. We've had a bye week to now prepare, and now we're going to be ready to go and ready to attack. The run game is obviously a key. You need to be able to achieve balance on a defense as talented as Ohio State, but the pass game, I think, is where Indiana is going to earn their money in this game. Look at that game earlier for Ohio State against Oregon this season. Oregon attacked the corners. They attacked Denzel Burke, and they attacked Davis Igbinosun. Look what Evan Stewart was able to do over the top in that football game. I think Indiana is going to take shots, and they're going to take shots early. And it's going to send a message a little bit that says, we're not afraid. We're not scared. We are able to step up to any challenge. And I also think that's just a matchup that favors IU in this game. I think Indiana has a better chance to have a better day throwing the ball. Even though it's a great Ohio State secondary, I think that fits into what they want to do from a game plan perspective more than certainly running the ball at this great Ohio State front. If I'm Indiana, I am overloading the Ohio State secondary. I know they've got good players. I know they've got a lot of depth, but I want to overload them with a lot of options across the line of scrimmage. I want to spread them sideline to sideline. What do Oregon and Indiana have in common? They have an experienced transfer quarterback that's very smart, that's very cerebral, that can make really good reads. They also have players that can catch the ball in space and make something happen, and they have players all across the formation. So if I'm Indiana in this game, I know, hey, Denzel Burke probably going to be matched up against Elijah Surratt. I know Omar Cooper's probably going to be on the other side. Davis Igbinosun probably on him. I think the middle of the field is where I'm looking to earn a lot of my money in this game, and I want to take advantage of some of those matchups. An X factor in this game to watch out for is Keyshawn Williams. You look at the past two games this season in the slot, smaller guy, has a lot of speed. 12 catches, 156 yards over the last two games against Michigan State and against Michigan. If they can get him matched up in a favorable matchup against a nickel like Jordan Hancock, a safety, or a guy like a Jermaine Matthews coming in an extra package with an extra corner, I think I feel pretty good about that with Indiana. And it's not just Williams, right? If I can get a tight end, Zach Horton, if I can get him on a linebacker, I can feel pretty good about that. If I can get somebody like a Miles Price coming off of an injury, I can get him matched up in the slot. That is another favorable matchup with a lot of speed that Indiana can certainly take advantage of. That's what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to hit those big deep shots so then it can open up some stuff in the run game. Ohio State, I think they need to be ready to be able to defend against those explosive plays early on. If the Buckeyes can keep those explosive plays at bay, I feel really, really good about Ohio State going forward past the first quarter. If they can survive that point without giving too much explosives, I certainly think Ohio State is sitting in the driver's seat at that point in time. We talked about the offense for Ohio State and the offensive line. We talked about, hey, Indiana's going to try to hit some explosive plays on offense, and these are two of the most efficient and productive offenses in the country, but these are also two of the best defenses in the country as well. The stats and the analytics bear that out. When you look at total defense in the country, Indiana is third, Ohio State is second. Against the run, Indiana is the top defense in college football, and Ohio State is fourth. Scoring defense, Indiana is seventh. Ohio State has allowed the least amount of points in all of college football. When you look at it from an analytical standpoint, that they favor Ohio State overall a little bit more. F+ rankings on the defensive side, Ohio State is second, and Indiana is 18th. And both of these really good defenses, we already talked about the offenses, but they are going to maybe face their most stiff challenges of the year. Yes, I know Ohio State played Oregon this season, but Ohio State is first in the country in yards per play at 7.52. Indiana, second in the country, though, in defensive yards per play at 4.30. Something's got to give in this particular matchup. Now, defenses have got to make plays. We know about the offenses and how productive and efficient and explosive that they can certainly be. And I think both offenses are going to be able to hit their plays at certain moments in time. But it's which defense, which of these top defenses is going to make the big play at the big moment. Like if I'm Indiana, I need plus plays. I need sacks. I need forced fumbles. I need tackles for loss. I need interceptions. I need takeaways. I need short fields for my offense. I've kind of said this about various opponents with Oregon. I know Indiana is an extremely talented team, but I feel like if they play straight up 0 turnovers versus 0 turnovers, something like that in the turnover battle, I think Ohio State's roster is just too talented. Indiana going on the road for the Hoosiers to be able to win the game. I think Indiana needs to be able to flip this game, certainly in the other direction, to be able to compete for a victory in the end. So much talent on the football field. I'm excited to see what Ohio State can do against Indiana. Can they slow down the Hoosiers? Can Ohio State run the football behind an offensive line that is replacing their starting center and one of the best starting centers in all of college football? Folks, it is prediction time. Indiana's not going to get blown out of this game. They're not going to get blown out of this game. This is going to be a challenge for the Ohio State Buckeyes, but I think the Ohio State Buckeyes are up to the challenge in this game. I think Ohio State is just more talented overall across the board. I trust Ohio State's secondary more than I trust Indiana's secondary. I think Ohio State is going to be able to hit some plays. They're going to hit some matchups right on the perimeter. I think Jeremiah Smith could have some big plays. Emeka Ibuka could have some big plays. I think Ohio State has the advantage over there. I think they're going to do good enough running the football. Wouldn't be surprised to see Will Howard get involved in the run game a little bit more. I think Ohio State's defense just does enough against Indiana to score more points than the Hoosiers in this game. I've got Ohio State 31 and Indiana 21. That's, I think, a half a point under the over-under in this game, and that's an IU cover of the minus 13.5. Big noon Saturday is some big-time implications, and I can't wait. That's my prediction. What are yours? Leave them in the comments below. I'm Big Ten Ted. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.